Hey, what's good, people? This is episode 250. Can you believe it? 250, man. And I got a special guest. I got Todd Hollenbeck. Coach Todd's in the house. Buckle up, people. The episode starts right now. It's good, Todd.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Listen, it's not just me. It's we do this for the people. They have asked, they have asked, they have asked. And for me, as you know, because you've been on the show, I've got to give the people what they want. Dun, 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 dun. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in episode 250. Very old friend of mine, and but very familiar to everybody. Long time coach. I remember AVCA Coach of the Year at Santa Cruz. Did some really good work at USC, and then wound up at Menlo that basically built that program. I remember you were like 17-1 or something like that. So you have been making a lot of dents on the college scene, and that doesn't even scratch the surface of some of the real work you've been doing with like clinics and as well as the club scene.
Yeah, it's been an epic journey, and I want to say, yeah, Jason, some of the stuff you're doing, man, loving it, loving the beach volleyball commentating, watching some of those kind of outer limit matches that not many people get to see unless you're there. Love it. I watch them all, man. I love that stuff. Anyone can watch the main court. Like I
Yep.
love watching those other nitty gritty matches. Those are the best.
Yeah, we again we do it for the people. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's me.
Yep. Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
you. So let's
for
start.
sure.
Let's start. Present to past, because this is a long form podcast, but for some crazy reason, I have a hard. I'm driving to Seaside. I'm going to Seaside, so I have a hard stop as far as like packing and getting this big bush under this hat chopped. I got to give it the
Hmm.
chop. Um, why'd you leave Menlo?
Great question. First of all, I will see you in Seaside. I will be there. I'm playing co-ed with my girlfriend, so super excited about that. Um, yeah, so yeah, that's obviously what a lot of people want to know. Because I've been, like you previously stated, I've been around the volleyball game for a while. I've coached D1, D2, D3, and NAIA. So I've coached at every single level except junior college. And that's actually a lie. I coached junior college beach volleyball in Santa Cruz. So I've actually coached some sort of volleyball at every single level. Um, and, there have been tough years, right? In any of those sports where, sometimes you think, hey, maybe I should do something differently. And you go, hey, I'm going to get right back on the wagon and do it again, and then do it again. And I've coached 17 seasons of volleyball, in college volleyball. And after this last season, where probably one of the most emotionally charged seasons I've had in a long time, as far as uh, 2 seasons ago, so not the season, but last season, my assistant coach passed away mid-season from brain cancer. And so needless to say, that was emotionally wild to like be in season working through that and having the boys work through that, and have a tough finish. But we finished well, but we didn't finish what we wanted to do. But based off the circumstances, and he was such a big part of the program, and he had been there with me from the very beginning as like a volunteer, and then worked up to got his pay donated so he could be full time, and then out of nowhere he got brain cancer, and just super emotionally charged. And then into that next year, hey, it's just me. I don't have any other staff going into the NCAA. So it's like forming all new bonds and all new connections with some new staff members. Some people, shout out to Coach Eric Valelos. He jumped on to help me out, finish out the season. But like, it was just me. And so I had to start like working on putting together a staff. And then we put together a staff. And then we, you know, we grinded. We found a way, and it wasn't pretty, but it was this amazing effort by all of these people that kind of just came together and weren't going to give up. And after that, it was like, I know, one, I could leave. If I left, I could leave my program in some amazing hands. And two, if I'm going to get off the merry-go-round and try to do something different for a year or 2 years, I don't know how much longer I'm going to take off. This is the time. I'm 40 years old. It's time to take time off from the college game and do some different things, some projects that I've been wanting to do and never been able to do, because I've been, college coaching is tough. It's all inclusive for me as a coach. Some people are really good at separating their life from being a coach, and for me, I'm Coach Todd, and it's just part of who I am, but I'm still going to stay in coaching and, volleyball adjacent, but it's just time to take a year off.
Yeah, I do appreciate, for the people that have never coached before or coached on a certain level, there is this grinding, exhausting thing where if you truly love it, and if you can't, put it in an echo chamber, right? Like, one of your biggest strengths, Todd, is you personalize your work, but it also might be one of your biggest weaknesses, right? Maybe it hurts a little much when you want something really bad for the kids and the kids don't get what, the result they want. So I speak for so many coaches. We both of us have a lot of people following us, but so I'd like to echo the sentiments of what you're saying, that you can come back exhausted. You come back from like you got nothing left. And with coaching, if you're coaching club and if you're coaching NCAA, there's no real off season. It's this residual thing. Your off seasons, you're doing college 10 months out of the year, out of the 12-month season, right? And then more volleyball in between. So I do appreciate the just taking some time and doing something else, or Todd, even doing nothing. Like I'm good at doing nothing. You good at doing nothing? Dude, I'm totally frigid, man.
I don't know what it is. I took this last season off of coaching club just because I knew we were going to make the transition, and I needed to, I'm going to put everything into the season, and I took coaching club off, and I just remember having Saturdays back and not really knowing to do with that.
That's wild.
Because, typically club would just dominate your Saturday, and you're just I felt kind of bad, like I should be doing something, but it's like I actually just have time off, which was so weird. Yeah. So I am trying to fill my time. Granted, I'm not just taking my time completely off, because I still have to, I live in Santa Cruz, beautiful place, but you still gotta work, make ends meet. But and I love coaching still. So I'm jumping in the gym. My friends at Connect Volleyball Club, they're the boys volleyball club in Santa Cruz. I'm helping them out. Get to be an assistant, which is amazing, and just help grow the program in Santa Cruz County, which is close to my heart. And two players that played for me at Santa Cruz started this club.
Right.
So I'm working for them now. This is amazing, just to see how everything's so circular.
Great community.
I'm going to get a chance to work with my friend Kevin Pratt in the recruiting space.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
No, it's a great community.
And so I'm going to work. Oh, it's amazing. And the people around here, and I've always had the drive to make an impact or to coach, right? Always having to commute. And now I get to really make an impact in my home community, which is amazing for me. And then, I'm helping out a friend from college who started a little startup in the recruiting space. KP's crew, Kevin Pratt's old friend of mine. I'm going to start working and doing some things with him. I'm going to start working in some adult education for beach volleyball in the community as well. And just be able to take a little bit of time and just have some fun, travel, and while still giving back and coaching.
Yeah. Coach, again, And when you said you were an assistant, it actually made me smile because I told some of my friends. In fact, I had Rowdy on the podcast. Santa Cruz guy himself, and
Oh,
and
love him.
yeah, yep. If I told Rowdy, if you want to affect the way people play college volleyball forever, be an assistant. Because being a head coach, man, I can imagine having to deal with the alumni, dealing with recruiting, and dealing with so many things. Again, for people that never coach college or haven't coached college in a long time, dealing with so many things that you think don't really have anything to do with actually coaching, right? And it's like one of the safest places you feel is in season on the sideline, and then when the game's over, you're like, oh God, okay, this comes with the job, right? I got to deal with this.
Yeah, no, 1,000%.
Hmm.
And I've seen it at each level, like Santa Cruz, where we had to do everything from the ground up. Whatever we wanted to do, we could do it, but we had to do it. We didn't have anyone helping. Like USC, which was like all this crazy stuff where our head coach had to deal with every possible different combination of things besides coaching,
Yep.
And then at Menlo, we were a small and mighty school, but I got to do a lot of stuff that I did at Santa Cruz, which I enjoyed, but also every single person at Menlo was like their own one-man army that was really good at their job. So you could always trust them. If we had like one person in the SID department, they'd do a killer job, but like we had a good backbone. But, oftentimes like I'd be coming out of meetings and then right to practice, and you're just like, it's hard to go into to get into coaching mode when you're thinking about your budget,
No doubt.
So I'm looking forward to doing a little assisting, and then I'm going to help run some clinics for the club and help with some development stuff, which I think is super important for any club, is to continue to have all your kids, no matter if they're like 14s to 18s, on the same page about, certain technical and tactical details. So when your kid goes from 14s to 15s, hey, some of the same stuff is going to stay the same all the way through. So super excited to do some of that stuff. And, it's been a long time since I've been able to, I've never not commuted, which is wild.
That's going to be great.
And, driving from, I can't wait.
Yeah. When you met me, I was the skills coach at Endless Summer, and it's like 6 blocks
Mm-hmm.
away from where I live. so, so when you're saying that, I had this reminiscent thing, like, wow, that was just, just roll off the couch and go coach. And Jeff Samuels as well. He lived across the street.
Yep.
That's when we met. Well, we met long before that, but you and I don't know. I started doing more filmography on you. Like I had fun filming you and Ruben Danley against the McKibbins at Huntington Beach.
Yep.
That was a really fun match because all four of you guys were rocking like really long beards. It was like the beard bros game.
Yeah. I remember that.
So let's turn back the clock a little bit. You spent pretty much your life building your brand as a coach, but I think your level up, or what really helped your brand, was there was a particular season. I think you were 21-5 at UC Santa Cruz, right? And that your AVCA gave you Coach of the Year, American Volleyball Coaches Association Coach of the Year, which to coaches like us that coach at the collegiate scene at that time. I think it was no, I wasn't anywhere. I was at John Jay, I think, but at that time of year. No, at that time, that's the highest honor, right? So how did that transition work from you leaving Santa Cruz to going to USC? Was it just an opportunity to move, I guess, D3 to D1? Because what a lot of people don't know is that Santa Cruz is actually D3. Like, people on the East Coast, like I didn't know until I don't know if you remember, I was with Baruch College, and we flew to the
Yep.
West and played Santa Cruz. I'm like, what the hell are we playing a D1 team for? And it's actually D3. So I guess, sorry, sticking with the question here, how did that transition work, and what was the rationale behind that choice to be the head coach, to be Jeff Nygaard's assistant, at USC?
100%. And so I'd been at Santa Cruz at that point for 7 years, 2 as an assistant, 5 as head coach. little people know, and Santa Cruz has done an amazing job now of investing more into its athletic programs and taking it really serious into the next level as far as like benefits and contracts and like lots of stuff. When I started, they weren't so good at that. And so for those 5 years as a head coach, I only made $10,000 a year as a head coach of the D3 men's volleyball team in Santa Cruz. And so my final year, they finally said, hey, we're going to do benefits and full-time pay for that last year when I was coach of the year. But then they were like, hey, after this year, we're going the students are going to vote if they want to keep athletics or cut them. And so I just was like, I don't want to. I love the team. My boys were amazing. You know, like I said though, like there was a couple staff members that were good, but like other than that, we did everything. The players, my assistant and me, we did everything. So I didn't have an allegiance to, you know, the AD or these other people that like were helping to build something. It's like we did it all. And the coaches before me, like Jonah Carson, who was the head coach when I was his assistant, and you know he's, you know, that works with the U19 team and does all this high level stuff with Mountain View Volleyball Club, right? Like he built all the stuff that then I got to take over and build on, you know, and that's how it worked. We didn't really, the school didn't really provide us very much back then. And so I just saw that as a sign. If they could just cut all of athletics, and I would have been kind of caught holding the bag, you know. And instead of, there was an opening at USC, and I had met the old statistician that was an old friend of mine that I'd known for a while, and he was like, hey man, I'll put in a good word to Jeff, and that was in history. But it wasn't an easy decision, because I mean, the boys I coached at Santa Cruz in that last season was really special. I mean, they were pretty unbelievable, and just the dudes' work ethic and their culture, you know, that's something I you know, it took a long time to get back, because it's like it was a special team. And you know, by the time, you know, my second year at Menlo, we found it again. But you know, that took a while to rebuild, and you know, as an assistant at SC, I had a little bit less of an impact on the cultural stuff. More of, you know, but like that's the fun part being assistants. Like, hey, you get to work with the technical stuff. You're working a little bit more one-on-one with skill sets and stuff like that. And you know, the Jeff and the head coaches are a little bit more in charge of building in the culture, and you're just there to help, you know, carry that culture forward, not so much creating the culture, which as a head coach I do like. I think culture creation and building team buy-in is an art, for sure. It's an art form. And you know, there's good years and there are bad years, but I think every team's different, and you can't apply the same stuff to every team. But that was a difficult decision for sure. But it was more of the school making some strange decisions. Nothing about, like, if the school would have just been like, hey, we're going to just pay you your full time and with your benefits, I probably would have still been in Santa Cruz. I wouldn't have left. Because I like moving to Southern California was great, because I had family there. I had a bunch of friends. That's where I grew up. It was an easy call, but it was just the school kind of pushed me to make that final call to make the move.
No, that makes complete sense. Because when you put something in something and they start doing things that seem spooky, they kind of like spook you out a little bit. You're like, let's make, like, even if this was a lateral movement, no one will call, I mean, very few people will call that a demotion. I mean, USC is a unique opportunity. It's the hotbed of indoor and beach volleyball. And I think one of the only winning seasons they had was when you were there, because I remember when you joined that team, like Jeff Nygaard, I'm like, how are they I'm just going to say it. How are they keeping Jeff Nygaard and this team is losing, man? And a Bruin, too. You guys kept a Bruin. No, but I did like the combination, because there was a competitive nature that comes with Jeff and the culture thing. And I know there's a technique and skill set, and also with you, we're not going to call these a series of coincidences. Everywhere you go, you happen to win, right? Now, I mean, winning in collegiate sports is the net result, but I think
Yeah.
you landed on something like building a culture of winning and competing and sustainment. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'll give, I got to give Jeff and Gary Sato was a big part of props. I mean, Jeff Nygaard is one of the most competitive people on the planet.
Yep.
And I think, you see they've had a lot of success now, and when I left the next year, they went to the national tournament. So, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do, in part, to, like some of the recruiting stuff I did to like bring in, just trying to find the biggest and the best and guys that are going to make a big impact. But, Jeff has never, I think, stepped down from what he's like from himself and has stayed true to as a coach and being a true competitor. Like that guy, even when we're playing short court, like before practice start, he's going full no jump, mind you. We wouldn't jump,
Right.
but he's not losing. He's not losing anything. He's not just messing around. We're playing a horse, a little basketball. He ain't losing, and I think that there's something Gary, I still hang out with Gary all the time, really good friend of mine, and we've become really close friends. And he's something kids ask, hey, what are you looking for in recruits? And he goes, I look for people that have a history of winning, right? You show me that you've even if it's not in volleyball, you show me you've won like a talent contest or you've won this or you've won that. It's like being the habit of winning and being competitive in that winning space. You can't really coach that. That's something that some people have and some people work to try to have and some people just don't. They might be very talented, but they don't win. There's tons of, you look at any AA open or qualifier, there's tons of talent out there. Tons of guys that are bigger, stronger, faster than some of the other guys that are winning. But, having that winning mindset and also a winning record brings a lot.
Well,
so that was some of the things I learned from those guys.
I think one of the other reasons why you're looking for people with a winner's mentality is because, I'd like to open my premise by saying that when it comes to men's volleyball or college volleyball, championships are not won by blowouts; they're won by 2-point victories, right? You can get the doors blown off you the first set, right, and win the next 3, and the other coach wishes that the game was determined by a cumulative score. I'm like, dude, I scored more points the entire game, and you still won the match. So, and the crazy thing, you'll agree with me, with all the training and with the culture and the winner's mentality and the habits you develop to compete, every time the score is tied, there's almost always someone doing something that they didn't train for. There's something that
100%.
happens, right? It's 24 up, Todd, and it's like, oh, okay, I didn't do that in practice, but and is that the reason why you're looking for people with winners' mentalities? Is because it's their power of improvisation as well as it comes with the training and attitude?
And it's finding a way, right? I think that's like the Marine. My brother just got done. He just retired from the Marine Corps after 20 years. But their whole motto was adapt and overcome.
And improvise.
So in some of those guys' minds in that 2024 situation, they're going, oh no, that's not something I'm ready for. Rather than the winner goes, this is the scenario and this is how I'm going to respond. And whether I get a good outcome, that's not the point. The point's going to be that I reacted, I responded best way I knew how, instead of just that split second of hesitation, that split second of, oh, we didn't practice that, and building an excuse mind rather than an action mind, and I think that's what really separates those.
Yeah, no doubt. And from USC to Menlo at the time was NAIA, right? And you guys, they're now NCAA, right? They're part of the MPSF?
Yeah.
Yeah. So since we're talking about chronology, I wanted to ask, because I already asked the transition from Santa Cruz to USC, and I think I'd like to ask a similar question. USC, hotbed, good opportunity, versus Menlo, a place where you can kind of like pitch your own tent and build, rebuild, but continue to build what your gem is. To me, the reason why I like you so much is because you, like so many coaches that I know, your ability to do more with less, and produce like high level results is what I think your reputation is, and continues to be. So was that one of the rationales or something that led you to go into Menlo, or was there something else?
So this may surprise some people out there, but I actually, after my 3 years at USC, I got let go. I got let go from SC. And it's one of those things in life. It's a valuable lesson. But at the same time, I didn't really like, long story short, there was no rationale. It was not up to Jeff.
Yeah.
It was, those one of those things that it happened. I remember just the example a couple years before Jeff took over, they did pretty well, and they still had to clear out their staff. And just something that SC does, I guess. I don't know. But I was actually offered the Menlo job in my second year at SC for the first year of the program at Menlo. But I said no, because I just got down here, right? I was going into my second year coaching at SC. I didn't want to give up that opportunity to go back up to Northern California. But, I think it laid a foundation for, kind of foreshadowing, because then, they had a coach step in and coach that first year, but then she left and the job opened. And it literally opened like a week after I got let go.
Right. Well, sorry, go ahead. Yeah. So Menlo,
I was like, wow.
Right.
Yeah, they stepped in, and I, Keith Spataro, who's the AD there at Menlo, like he reached right back out to me. He's like, hey, this is open. What do you think? You want this? And I literally flew up, got my contract signed, and just went up and took the job.
Listen, since we're on the college scene, I wanted to talk about coaching in general, right? Coaching is about building your reputation, and college really is about wins and losses, because and for you, kind of like A transcends the B. Like you build the right culture, you build this institution of hard work, or this environment where it's competitive, and if you do it right, the way you have been doing it your whole career, when the wins will come. And you've always struck me as a type of coach where winning was never your goal. Winning was the expectation. I have something in theater we call GOAT. Goal, obstacle, tactics, expectation, right? So your goal was really just to make a competitive culture, and possibly an institute of brotherhood, which is more important for women's than men's. Like women is more sisterhood driven, and guys is more driven by leadership in my experience. Now, I just want to say before we jump off the USC to Menlo thing, my inspiration as a coach was Bill Parcells. Wasn't even a volleyball guy, because Bill Parcells, either you're good enough or you're not. Either you win or you don't, right? Like when he had to make a decision between Tony Romo and Drew Bledsoe had the $25 million contract. You're supposed to play that guy, but that's not how. Bill's like, no, can I win with this guy or not? But we paid him this money. He's like, that's not what I'm asking you. What did you could picture Bill having that conversation. What did I just ask you? And everyone from his coaching tree is very similar. Bill Belichick, Tom Coughlin, Sean Payton. Everyone from that, everyone from that coaching tree was similar. So, my question to you, because I guess I was just shaping a thought and hoping that was going to lead to a question. But first, I have two questions. One, what was your first coaching gig? And we'll start there, and I'll go with the second question. Just
any type of coaching?
Yeah, what was your first coaching gig? I'll give you an example. My first coaching gig was City Tech in New York. They didn't have a men's program and no club, and Chi DiMaggio and I built that from the ground up. In fact, we recruited Patrick Dietz, who you know probably well. As far as East Coast guys, you know well enough. I recruited Patrick Dietz as my my premier outside. He's Jose's assistant at NYU right now.
Yeah, well, my first gig I ever took for sure was I coached just Peninsula High School in Rancho Palos Verdes, California. Is when I assisted for the men's team and I assisted for the women's team. I did clinics over the summers, right when I come back from college. I'd worked with them. I stayed in contact with our alumni department and stuff like that for my alumni at Peninsula High School for the boys program. So those are my first real gigs ever, where I really, learned a lot of just about coaching. I had some pretty legendary, high school coaches that had just been around and had won with, like you said, they won with nothing. They won with everything. They were able to, because we weren't a recruiting high school, right? We played against, we were, playing against Miracosta, and they would get kids from all over that for somehow they could do that. And they're a public school, but somehow everyone went there. And, we still competed up with like all the top, we beat Redondo and all these other pretty big programs. But, I had Mike Jade was someone I worked for a long time. Nikki Jade does Vibe Volleyball, at the Academy. And then, Kurt Barcinella, is an old school coach, has been in the game forever and has just, he's been at Peninsula High School for, still he's the boys coach now. He's been the women's coach, boys coach, men's coach, like forever. And so I learned a ton from those guys. I had amazing coaches growing up from all different stages of the game that kind of sculpted how I coached. It is kind of crazy, like, to look at the lineage of coaches I've had. Like, my first club coach ever was a guy by the name of Chris Jacobson, who won or got second on Top Chef. He's 6'10" guy. I don't know if you've ever remember watching the first season. He was on the show, but he was, Pepperdine All-American, played on the national team, and he was coaching a 16-2s team. And he was my coach. And it was like, and I was a middle. So I'm learning from, one of the best. And, then the next year I had John Speraw, who was the national team coach. That's my 17s coach.
But talk
Bill
about
Ferguson
a hard worker too.
Coach.
Yeah.
I had Scott Davenport as a coach, who's now head of training for the women's national team for beach. I had Stein Metzger as a coach. I've had all these different coaches that were all different types of people in all different spots in their lives. And it's funny, I actually heard John Speraw mention this in a podcast he did about the team. When we were our 17th team, like, he got the team. He thought he was going to get all these like top level prospects. Those guys had started their own club and he didn't get any of them. So he got and it's so funny because I had the exact same thing happen to me when I moved to Southern California. I got the Bad News Bears, and it's like, and you kind of like, all right, let's see what we can do with this team. And he had to go through the same thing, and he's our national team coach now. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of funny redrawing these similarities through your whole coaching experience. All these guys started coaching club just like me, or just like you. And now, where they are now. Yep. It's been fascinating, just, that kind of progression of my first gig and, all the things that taught me. And then all these people that their first gig was coaching me, it's funny how it goes around that circle.
Yes. Well, you got a cycle there, but you also have a good tree. You have a cycle and a tree, right? Look, first of all, out of this elite list of coaches you name, the one that I think that identifies the most as Bill Parcells would probably be Scott Davenport, right? Like I actually see him pretty much every morning because they practice in front of the hotel. So every morning I get my coffee. Watch the sun rise on a grateful universe, and he's out there, doing Scott things. And again, a Rochester guy, so we get along. He's a New York guy, so we get along really well.
Oh yeah.
But great. I really love your story about Speraw though, because most of the people that I know that become really good coaches, comes from their Division I training and their playing pedigree, but the ability to start over like at the club level and appreciate the psychological development of teenagers from like 13, 14, all the way up to 17. It's like I'm a middle, like all of these questions, like I'm a middle now, but will I be an OH or OPPO? Is there life after volleyball, right? These are questions that I thought John, at that time, and you at the time, and everybody at that time really, really helped those kids and shape those personalities,
Yeah, for sure.
There's an old saying. My theater professor told me this, and I share this with volleyball players all the time. My freshman year at Marymount Manhattan, I'm in the BFA program for acting, and my professor told me, your reputation starts the day you say, I want to be an actor. And the reason why he said that is because it's such a small world. And I'm getting somewhere with this. It's such a small world that if you were kind of like an idiot 10 years ago, and someone meets you 10 years later, and let's say you're not an idiot anymore, who's the person they're going to remember? They're not going to remember the new and changed person. They're going to remember the guy that was whatever. And the reason why I brought that up, and you're smiling because you know where I'm going with this. Volleyball, it's similarly in comparison and not contrast. Volleyball's a very small world. And once you decide, I want to be a volleyball coach, that's when your reputation starts, right? And again, everyone from that tree you mentioned, I don't know if they dive in knowing that. Maybe they're just good people and just unassuming and just, want to coach and let these kids ball out. But it's very, very important. And this isn't a question. I'm bringing this up because there are two particular players that had choices to play for someone. And I told them to choose you because the guy I remembered from Santa Cruz was such a competitor. And at the same time, you have this easygoing nature, like everybody gets along with you, dude. Like I had a ton of nicknames for you, I'll say for the podcast or whatever, but I'll just name names like Tucker Merritt. Ended up going to Menlo, right? A middle.
Ended up going to.
Yeah, he was at Elko, and the parents were asking me about Menlo, and when I said, "Who's the coach there?" and they said Todd, I said, "Play for Todd." Now I don't know if he played for you or not, and he might have, right?
He did not.
Spencer Isley
as far as
ended up playing for SCVC, right?
I remember Spencer, yep.
And Spencer was trying out. And, when you're kids, you want to play for SCVC. It's this premier club. And when he asked me, like, who the coaches were, I told him, he told me, when he said your name, I said, you want to play for that guy. You want to play. I'm not talking about guys who have these blue chip credentials. I'm not talking about guys who come with this pedigree, because those guys, you don't really know if they're glorified babysitters or if they cut their cloth the same way guys like you and Spara and whatever. So your reputation, because I met you before I moved to California, and what I remembered was I told Spencer Isley and his father, Drew, no, you want that guy. You want to play for that guy, and because I coached them the year before at Evolution.
Yeah.
Duncan Avery's club.
I know Duncan. I played at Nob Hill growing up, and I know Duncan for a long time. And Spencer and some of those other guys on that team that we had, that was one of the teams that we kind of had to create out of nothing, and we got 5th in USA that year.
It was wild.
And we lost to a team that shouldn't have been there. There was a team that had some guys that were going to like Ohio State on a USA team. And it was like, so we lost to them, but that was a very special team. Those kids, I still stay in touch with them. A couple of them came up to my game at Menlo, and we hung out afterwards.
Yeah.
Those were some amazing, groups of kids. Cause I also think it's like, they bought in, like, and we were just like, okay in our skill set and our size, but the mentality and the dedication that the kids put in, I demanded, and they they called it. They said, yeah, we're in for that. And that's what made us dangerous.
Yeah.
And because it's like, if you looked at us on paper or just even in a lineup, you'd be like, I think our average height was like 5'10".
Yeah, it was. Because Spencer wasn't a tall middle. He was just athletic and he was a competitor. You know, he was a competitor.
Huge, wanted to win. I mean, and those kids, it's like they'd all come from teams that were fun or, played pretty well, but like they just wanted to try to find that next gear. And like, I didn't ever want to lie to them and tell them like, oh, you're going to be the best. But it's like, hey, if you do these things, you can win. Right. But if you don't do these things, like we don't have a shot. Like we have to do every single thing to have a chance to win. And they bought in. And it's so funny. That was one of the greatest. I'm a huge Halloween fan, like just like the holiday.
Yeah.
They dressed up, every single one of them dressed up as me for Halloween and came to practice wearing a USC shirt, a beard, a USC hat.
Come on.
It was hilarious.
Oh my God. They were Hollenbeck heads.
It was like, again, one of the coaching moments, that you're just like, this is amazing. And, I didn't have my costume. It was like the first year I'm coming from SC, like tough day or something. And I'm in exactly what they're wearing. I've got my USC shirt, USC hat, and that's what they were all wearing. It was amazing. It was amazing.
By the way, Spencer coached Evolution last season.
Yeah.
And they won nationals for club AAUs. Club.
I saw that.
And I considering Evolution and how young the program is or was, that's a win. Yeah, that's a win for that
huge.
Club. Yeah. Yep.
That's huge.
Yep. And also the year before, he joined us AVCA. Spencer played and this is my first year as a club coach, and I was fresh off the plane in New York, hit the ground, hit the ground running like 101st Airborne. And we went to nationals in Columbus, and we took down Cincinnati Attack, and we took their 5 spot with them. So in the rankings, like we got as high as 5th in the country. So that was my first year. That was the year before you had Spencer, and I'm not seriously not trying to take this interview and make it about me, but there were similar things. I recognize your pattern of taking some of these people, and making them better versions of themselves. And, sometimes it looks like you got the max out of these guys to get, and it's weird because some of them, you seem like you got the max out of these guys. And some people, they realize their unrealized potential, and you got a lot out of them, and they still had more, like they still haven't even hit the top. So it's very, very interesting to see some of these players. And, maybe you can cite some of them from the three schools you coach. Anyone that come to mind, like USC, Santa Cruz, or Menlo, where some of these kids didn't realize their untapped potential.
Yeah, I'd say, like one that comes to mind from my Menlo time was he was my first year was his freshman year. And he didn't play club volleyball. He was from Clovis. His name is Chase Dorito. And he was an athlete, but he didn't, he played middle blocker and it was pretty good, but like had no, could jump pretty well. That was like his superpowers. He could jump pretty well. And he tried to rely on that a lot. And it was like, by the time he graduated, granted, when he bought in, I think the first day we were chatting in the dining hall, I said, at SC for the top football recruits, it's 6,000 calories a day, when you're lifting 5 to 7 days a week. And I was exaggerating a little bit, but he goes, oh man, okay. And just like started eating because he was skinny, he was skinny in bones. And then, by the time he graduated, he was touching 11-11, and we went and played in Finland and won I think their club team won the Finnish championship, and he got to do that whole thing, and now he's killing it. He got a job. I mean, that's one of the things is for me, it's like, hey, I love when the guys go play professionally because that obviously looks good for us. But I think something that often doesn't really shine is the non-volleyball piece. right? Like he's got a money job. Like he's working and he's making money and he's planning a life and doing these other things. And just as coming back into volleyball again, I think he went and played the 6-man or something, But like that to me, it means I did my job.
Did you play 6-man
like
too?
He got to play pro.
Yeah.
Huh?
Sorry, did you play 6-man as well, or?
No, because I'm going to Seaside. I couldn't do both.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't. But next year, look out. I'm playing 40 and over next year for 6-man. I'm going to be doing it next year. Look out. I think we're going to bring down a team from Santa Cruz.
It's going to be
a bunch of my friends, some 40 and over ballers.
Yeah, going to be good, dude.
Yeah.
As a coach, you're also a very active player, more active than most coaches at this level. And I guess one of my interview questions, because we're just talking smack about volleyball here, was your experience as a coach or some of the things improve some of your technique as a player? Is there something that you like teach kids, and then as a player you're like, wait, I taught my kids this, how come I'm not doing this? You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna give you the wheel because I see your wheels turning.
I think for me, like I'm still a AAA beach volleyball player, and I still coach beach on the side, kind of just for fun. But like I was giving a setting lesson the other day, to these folks, and I like went back to look at my film of me setting in like the last open, and I wasn't doing anything I was talking about. I wasn't square. I was just so used to being able to do it,
just athletic,
instead of like kind of and just like have good hands, but like I'm not squaring my shoulders at all. Or, I'm not lunging and lifting at all. Like I'm not, and it's kind of funny. So it's like the last time I went and played doubles, I really tried to like exaggerate the fundamentals again. And it was kind of cool to make that reconnection. And, I was setting pretty well without it, but it's just like, you gotta practice what you preach a little bit. I don't want them watching me and me not doing what I'm telling them to do, so that was a funny one. And, I think it's describing strategy when it comes to like calling timeouts or like defensive setup, when you're communicating that to players, that really helps me revive what I should be thinking about in a game, because sometimes I just get in my competitive mode, and that can sometimes be a fog because I'm just being competitive, rather than, hey, how am I going to break down this next point? Like, we need this point. What should we do next? Rather than, we just got to get the point. No, how are we going to get the point? So I think that's something that's also helped me make sure my mental game is the strongest as can be, because I'm sure as heck not getting any more athletic. So I gotta be work smarter, not harder. So I think those are two examples.
And those are two really, really good examples. You also stumbled onto the institution of how to manage timeouts, right? Usually sometimes when I see former players who coach, when I don't see them manage timeouts properly, I think to myself, the player in them is preventing them from managing some of those timeouts. Isn't that wild? And I'm sure you went through one of those phases in your long coaching career. I certainly did. I'll give you an example. I was at Hunter High School, and we had something called a campaign year, and we were 38-1. Right, that year we won the PSALs. Right, Madison Square Garden gave me Coach of the Year. That was like one of my, like my premier high school thingy. But the one loss, we're up. It was 3 games of 25, so we're up 23-17. I had both timeouts, and I didn't use them. We lost. So I hired my wife as a timeout coach for the rest of the season. And did you have a story or thoughts about like managing timeouts and like how the player in you has to separate yourself from the sideline? Your thoughts? unlike the challenge or the player
Oh,
in
sorry.
you. Like in certain phases in your career, there was definitely a phase where like the player in you keeps saying next play instead of calling timeout. Or is that something you just got right?
Oh yeah. No, 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 no. As a young coach, like I think you think you're comfortable with your team and how to perform.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, oh, the other team just rattles off a couple points. All good. My team's got this. That can get you into a tough spot when it comes to now the other team has momentum. And if you would have called your timeout a point or two ago, you could have cut off that momentum and just, won or like just get an easy side out and move on. So I think a lot of young coaches think they know their teams rather than, sure, your team's probably pretty good. But if another team goes on a 3-point run, like timeout, you just got to, it doesn't matter if you're up by 6 or 7 at that point. After 3 points in a row, boom, bust it. It's like, okay. And even if you don't say anything to them, let them grab water, talk to your assistant. I did some coaching at Mountain View for a while, and I would go try to sit on every bench of all the other coaches. And there were a lot of coaches, but because 14s, it's a game of runs. One kid could serve 10 points, but so that is a little bit of a seesaw. But I saw so many young coaches that were like, don't worry, this is how it always goes. And it's like, well, let's change that and make sure we as a coach, this is your time. Out of all the things you can do in a game, you really only have control of 2 timeouts. Like that's what a coach can do, besides yell information out onto the court.
Well,
if you don't actually use your power, anything can happen.
Well, you can sub a kid out and tell him to untie his shoe, right, and sub him back in like nothing happened, and the refs kind of look at you like this, like like it's like our inside joke, and they know what they're doing. That's
100%.
That's
but
cool.
I mean, but like so subbing and stuff like that. But like when you can actually bring the whole team in and relay information.
Mm-hmm.
That's your timeout can just change everything. Here's a funny use of the timeout. Coaching a varsity girls tournament by myself, the head coach couldn't be there. And we're in this just junky old gym that has one side where the sun is just beaming. And we switched to that side. Key moment. And I call back-to-back timeouts and a medical because one of our girls was having some issues anyway. So that then the sun moved out of our passer's eyes.
Yep.
And we were able to pass the ball, and we ended up winning.
Good.
But it was like we just had to wait because we saw that the sun was setting, and we just needed to wait as long as we could. And it wasn't even that it was early in the game, but we were serving them when the sun was in their eyes. They couldn't it was impossible to pass in that gym. And so they started, served like 2 or 3 points, and I was like, time out. And I walked over to the ref and was trying to talk to him about something I made up. And then, called my second timeout because I was all upset. I told the girls that I was going to do this so we could, they were all fake acting upset. And then, it was wild. But it's like, if you don't use your timeouts, you can't just use them in the next game, right? Or you lose.
Great.
I think that's something that, you got to use. And I just worked, I have a client on the beach, and I was watching his, older guy, cagey guy, but wants to work on his offense, and watching them in this playoff game in a CVBA, and the other team rattles off 4 points while they're on the good side and they don't use their timeout. And it was just like, I'm not going to step into this game and try to get his attention.
Right.
They've got to learn. But boy, was that frustrating.
That must have been wild.
This is it's tough.
But you're right.
for sure.
There are those weird gyms, and again, that was my one loss. The one loss that they came back was what we would call. Remember that movie Rain of Fire? The only way to kill the dragon is like magic hour, like the sun setting
Hmm.
this way, and the only time the dragon can't see, like you shooting the harpoon at him. That was this sunset where the window was on the gym, and you're right. God, this is where you're always going to be better than me. I was in this. No, but I was in the exact same situation, and I called none, and you called both, and a medical, and one loss, one win for the good guy, and one loss for the
Yeah, it's
bad
true.
guy.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
no, it's just funny. I mean, like again, there's probably other moments out there in my coaching career that are not nearly as glorious, but that was a funny memory.
But the Todd, these are the more fun stories to tell, right? Like every coach at every level. We were talking about Sparrow. I'm sure he has a similar story. Karch, was once a club coach himself. Before he hit the international scene. People forget that, right? Furbringer, pretty much all over the place at the collegiate and club scene. Like it's just,
Yep.
I mean, we could have a panel just a coach, like a coach's panel of nothing but 2 straight hours of fun stories, right?
Yep.
And God, the thing, this is usually a long form podcast, but I have this ridiculous hard stop. But I have two very important questions. This is why I'm in interview mode, not
Yep.
conversation mode. I
Yep.
feel like we're being cheated here, and that's my fault. Um, is there a particular book that you encourage kids to read, or a book that kind of inspired you? It can be a sports book, but it
Yeah.
inspired you athletically as a coach and or as a player.
Yeah. There's a. Oh, where's the? I actually have it right here.
Hmm. Yes, that's it. I
So
like
yeah,
it. James
legacy
Kerr.
about the All Blacks, which is, I mean, just talk about culture creation and greatness and a winning mindset, but like a winning mindset, even as far as like cleaning the locker room,
Right.
like stuff like that. I just love it. I think that every team should be doing the base level stuff that these professional best players in their country and the world do every day, that take almost no talent, right? Like all the things they do to prepare and make sure that like the basic respect and communication levels, and cleaning the gym and making sure everything is orderly and doing these stuff that doesn't take, and then they're also the best on the field. But I think it's because they prep mentally and they do everything at the highest standard, and it's expected of all athletes. There's no superstar. The superstars are the guys that they clean the best, right? Or they do the little things better than anybody else. So that's one. And then for captains and people that are interested in leadership, there's a book called The Captain's Class.
Captain's Class. I got
Yes.
it. I got
And
it. It's here somewhere. Hmm.
that one threw me for a loop, because the first couple of chapters I was like, where is this going? Because it's all about finding out. The guy just set out to see who was the best sports teams of all time. That was his first thought. But then everything boiled down to these teams that were winning, like the Celtics that won 11 of 13 championships over 13 years. And like it boiled down to like one person on each of these teams that made them so special. And like, why were they special? Like, they weren't even statistically the best in many cases, but how they led as leaders and how that changed everything on the team. And I think that was those two books that I think are my favorite.
I like Chop Wood, Carry Water, which that's for John Mayer for LMU, and I was John's assistant at
Yeah.
LMU. I read that before I got
What's
there, but that was like, it's called Chop Wood, Carry Water. And
okay?
I'll give you the author in a minute, but it's just about embracing the getting up in every day in the process of
Mm.
of doing these things where it becomes part of your DNA. So when it becomes part of your DNA, it's not like something that's exhausting and something that you're not looking forward to. You get up and you do it, and you get better at it, and then your muscle memory becomes better at it, and And again, for like all of the girls for LMU, it's required reading. But I'd already read that before I moved to California. And I read Captain's Class. It was a gift from Jason Olive, a Los Angeles Volleyball Club, and he's like, "You'll love this." He's like, "It's right up your alley," and I'm like, "Cool." Two more questions. One is, what's your favorite sports movie? I'll go first. I like Remember the Titans, Denzel Washington. That's one of my favorite ones. And Any Given Sunday.
I have to go with, oh man. I'd have to go with Side Out. The one beach volleyball movie.
You are a true warrior. You are a true baller, my man.
It's so bad and good all at once. And then if you haven't seen it and you're in beach volleyball, like, it's unbelievably bad and good all at once. I just don't know. I can't. And then I guess, I don't know if you've ever seen Unnecessary Roughness.
I have.
That's a classic silly
returning quarterback,
movie.
Right? Returning adult student. Yes.
Yes. And again, how they have to get the whole band together. It's ridiculous.
We're going to play Iron Man football with this bunch.
Yeah, exactly. Those by far. I guess I just like funny movies. Some of those serious ones are good. Like, what was the one about when USA Hockey Miracle won the Miracle? I mean, I saw that, and that was pretty that was inspiring for sure. But when I'm watching movies, I try to I don't want to take stuff too seriously.
You want to laugh.
So so I mean, those are my two favorites, I think.
The Replacements, right? That's a movie we could watch together and have a good time, right? Like, that's great.
Classic.
All right, I gotta get out of here, but what's like your Insta handle or website? People want to know more what your next move is or what you've been up to.
Absolutely. We're going to be launching a bunch of stuff in the next couple of weeks. Kind of a media blitz about some recruiting stuff I'm going to be doing with KP's crew. But you can just find me at Coach Todd on Instagram. That's where I'm going to do most of my work through my Insta. So let's see. I want to make sure that's all. Yeah, it's just Coach Todd is where I do most of my stuff. Yeah, you're going to see me on some KP Crew's podcast coming up. I'm also we got to do something while we're both up in at Seaside. So 100%. That obviously is going to be coming out soon.
Copacetic.
But yeah, and then I'll be back in the gym. So you'll see me at club stuff. You'll see me at some college stuff, hanging out. I'll be working, doing stuff. We have a foundation that helps raise money for kids that can't afford to play club volleyball. So we do a lot of stuff with that. So we're going to be helping out kids and doing, some cool media, trying to raise some money for help kids, play at the next level. So that'll all be coming soon. But yeah, hit me up on Coach Todd.
Did you hear that, people? Some people say when people talk about growing the game, some people say it and some people show it. All right. This is volleyball activism at its absolute finest. And this is going to throw everybody for a loop because this is usually a long form podcast and everybody's like, where are you going? And again, you come back to the South Bay, we can do this again with friends,
Absolutely.
And anytime you want to watch game film with me, I am a volleyball, as you know, I'm a volleyball nerd. So, so guys, for everyone watching, Todd might love you guys, but I don't love you guys. In fact, I can't stand you. In fact, we're out of here. So for all of you at home, for all of you on your desktops, for all of you on your Droids or iPhones, who runs the world? Old school, baby. This is Todd Hollenbeck. I am Jason DeBias. This is the Option Podcast. This is episode 250. We're going to hit my music. You stay with me, but for now, we're out of here. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.